Hi, welcome. I'm Shauna Davis, the Epicurean Connection, located here in Sonoma, California. Welcome to tuning into Cheese Chats, creating community through cheese. Today, I'm honored to have Emilio Mignucci join us, all the way from Bruno Brothers back east. And Emilio, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Are you kidding? Thank you for having us anytime.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and taking time to ship us a generous box of cheese and your beautiful new cookbook, even with a personal note inside. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. You kidding? We've known each other too long. Well, not long enough. How about that?
Not long enough because we got many years to go.
We do. That we do.
These cheese chats started right after the pandemic. I decided that, we couldn't go to Natural Foods East or West. We couldn't go to American Cheese Society. We kind of got all put on restriction.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun not seeing us in New York, DC, and so I called up Ari Weinswig and Zingerman and said, "What do you think about a cheese chat?" And he's like, "I think we should start next week." So
I love it.
We launched the first one, and now based on people saying I love hearing about the cheese community, we're actually doing 3 a week now.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Listen, and people like you and I who travel a lot, like in this community to see each other, like we need this, right? And because and listen, I know you well enough. We gain inspiration from each other and from our peers and from just, sitting down with a glass of wine or a beer and eating some great, cheese, but food in general, right? That's who we are.
I live for the dinners in New York City. I live for the American Cheese Society after we've all gone to class receptions.
Right.
I mean, those are what I live for.
Yeah, so, that's great stuff.
My idea of getting us all together. So today we had Kendall and John Antonelli on.
Oh, they're awesome. Two of my favorites.
And we had Pat Ford on from Beehive today.
No, I love Pat. We served together on the board.
Yes, so we're in good company today.
I'm excited. I can't wait to text them after this.
So Emilio, so some of our listeners may not know about Bruno Brothers. Can you give the history and how many generations your family has been running Bruno?
So I can, and listen, I'm born and raised. If there's one thing I know, it's about the Bruno Brothers. My grandparents started this business back in 1939, and I got to tell you, my cousin and I and my brother were so fortunate to be the oldest grandchildren at the time, back in 1990, when my grandparents were thinking of retiring and selling the business. So we got together. We couldn't let them just sell the business. We wanted to make sure that we kept their legacy alive because we were so grateful for all that they have done with and for the family. They were awesome. Danny and Joe, they were the two brothers. Danny being our grandfather, Joe, his brother was my great uncle, I guess you can say. And they just taught us a lot about, in all honesty, which became our guiding principles, I guess. Celebrating great food and great family people that helped us to celebrate really great business. And I can just remember in 1990 when we took over the business, when we asked to take over the business, they literally cried that we wanted to take it over. We were in our 20s, me and my cousin Bill 21, 22, and my brother 23. And, they didn't think that we appreciate, or they didn't realize how much we appreciated. And when we did it and asked them, their permission to take it over and take it to another level, we knew they were ready to retire. We begged them to stay on with us for at least a month, maybe 2, whatever you can, to teach us the ins and the outs. And I got to tell you, as kids, in high school, we worked at the store and we did, but it wasn't the same. Now we were charged with, and inspired by them, we were charged with the reins of the family business and to take it to another level. And we started to really take it seriously at that point and try to understand it. I guess the good thing for us was that naivete really helped us not know anything to take the business and move it forward. But, their ability to make people feel good and comfortable shopping in their store, like they did for the whole family. Every Sunday dinner around the family table, everybody got together and we just, and I'm talking about family dinners of like 18 to 22, 24 people. Like, yeah, it just was the norm. And so growing up like that, we were just always celebrating great food and family. And, it became, our guiding principles at the Bruno Brothers. So we're very grateful to Danny and Joe for the foundation that they built that allowed us to grow our business. Because today, fast forward to today, we have 6 retail stores. We're opening up another one, a 7th one, come middle of next year. We have an import and distribution business. We manufacture a little bit of fresh mozzarella for our stores and cheese spreads that we have national now. We took on a co-packer about 8 years ago to get them national. And we have an events and catering business. We're very, very fortunate that my grandparents built such a great foundation, and especially in the 60s and 70s when the whole country was traveling to France and becoming Francophiles. Danny and Joe capitalized on that by selling a lot of brie and at the time, specialty French cheeses, right? Nobody really knew what it was except for when they came home from France. They're like, oh, I had this cheese or that cheese. And so Danny was listen, you're talking about 2 guys who came over from Italy with nothing more than a 3rd grade education, Danny being the oldest, my grandfather, and just having the vision to say, oh, well, we're going to start carrying that stuff for these people. And they quickly became a store that sold ingredients to chefs because the store was in the heart of the Italian market, which is the oldest open air market in the country. So it's kind of like Seattle's Pike's Marketplace. Mm-hmm. And so they benefited from chefs in the city just walking the market to buy the fruits and vegetables and their meat from the butchers and things like that. And, they benefited from that by selling those chefs olive oil and Parmesan Reggiano. They were the first ones in Philly to have Parmesan Reggiano in the 70s. So that entrepreneurial spirit of Danny's became our tagline as this culinary pioneers because they were so far ahead of their time.
Right.
And that foundation was just, easy to build on.
Yeah. Well, they're lucky that you 3 youngins decided to approach them. And so forward now, look at how ahead of the time they were.
Yeah. It just was incredible to us. Every time we think back, and I think of some of the things that, my grandfather said to us when he handed us the keys, that they knew, and people today are trying to learn, customer service and, things like don't take your customer for granted. And, he didn't say it in those words, but he would say stuff to us in his broken English, like, the people that come into our store here, they don't have to come here. They choose to come here, and he would say little things like that. They come here and, when you're here, you have to have a good day every day. Leave your bad days outside the shop because the customers don't deserve your bad day. He'd tell us all these little things that today, again, is really part of our core values and how we service the customer. And, it's just unique to me that somebody like that had that embedded in him. And I guess because of that, we have it embedded in us. We're retailers at heart.
Yeah.
Shopkeepers, we call it.
We call it a shop. We've always called our place a shop.
Yeah.
And, the new place that we're in, we call it a warehouse. But when I'm talking about it, it immediately goes back to shop.
Exactly.
And, like your family, our family skipped a generation. But my granddad was a chef. And he would tell stories of driving around on Fridays. And I would beg to skip school on Fridays to do this route with him. I mean, I would just beg, because getting in his truck and then driving around to the farms and picking up all the food was, and then he cooked for this old resort here. It was a dance hall.
Great.
So as a kid, I was like, I want to go with my grandparents.
Of course. And you're learning. You don't even know it, right? You don't know it at the time. You're just having fun doing it. And all of a sudden you're learning things. You fast forward 10, 15 years, you start to think back on those experiences that help to shape who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sent this beautiful box of cheese, And that makes sense with the imported cheeses based on your family history, because you sent the Comté, you sent a Parmesan Reggiano, which made my husband very happy, because I took him to the American cheese lady. He was so excited when he saw this box, by the way. And the last but not least, the amuse, like, you made my husband a very happy man for this evening. He's like holding his hands up, waiting.
That's awesome. This collection here is a very unique collection, and it's there's a very dear friend of ours who passed away way too young, Daphne Zeppos, who started this company, Essex Street Cheese, and she would, when I first met Daphne, she would come to Philadelphia and she would come and hang out in my store, and I realize it now. I didn't realize it then, but what she was doing was cultivating her vision of what a cheesemonger is and should be. And she would come and hang out at the store, and we talk about these imported cheeses that we had, because Danny and Joe at the time in the 60s and 70s, there wasn't a whole lot of American cheeses. That American Cheese Society didn't exist yet. And so, we were at the store that, and still is, our base, like these imported specialties, and where we used to be 90% imported, now it's, a good 50-50, honestly, because we do a great job with American cheeses as well. But Essex Street Cheese, she started this company because she wanted to have some of the iconic traditional cheeses, the best of them, by hand selecting and making sure that they were the most authentically produced product. And that's what you have there. And every box that we sell of this, 10% goes to the DZTA, the Daphne Zeppos Teaching Award for the ACS. So it's an important box for us. And these are 3 of the 6, really most popular cheeses that we sell of Essex Street, along with the 4th one is the Manchego 1605. But these cheeses are unique, and the Marcel Petit Comté, is aged in the world-renowned fort of Saint Antoine that Napoleon used for his troops, and being in the mountains, it's the perfect temperature for aging cheese. So Marcel Petit turned the caves into turned that fort into aging vaults, and there's 200,000 wheels of Comté just sitting. And the beauty is that we send mongers there every year to learn about this stuff, and so we get a specific flavor profile that's in that box, but we also get a special one that is a monger selection every year that we get a limited supply of, that the monger goes and chooses a profile that, specific to that monger that we send that year, which is pretty cool. And our customers wait for that.
Oh, I bet. That's amazing.
Yeah. Listen, what we try to do is teach our people firsthand, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and we send them on these trips. Unfortunately, this COVID shut us down this year, and we weren't allowed to travel, but we'll get back on track soon enough.
Yes,
soon enough.
We'll be back at food shows and receptions after ACS.
Yeah, it's going to look a little different, but it'll happen. It'll happen.
And tell me about with other 2 cheese. You got the Parmesan Reggiano, and so you send one of your cheesemongers and select.
So Giorgio Crivero is a really good friend of ours. Giorgio has a very specific flavor profile for his Parm Reggiano. Although it's a 36-month Parmigiano, it's still on the softer side, so very fruity and sweet. It's not going to be dry and really sharp. Going back and forth to Italy, I realized that the Italian palate is not. So here in America, we like sharp, especially here on the East Coast, like in the Northeast, like we like sharp provolone, like the sharpest there is. But there, they love it more dolce or sweet, and so there's more complexity here. This Giorgio's family have been selecting Parmigiano since 1855, and I had happened to meet Giorgio back in 2001. Essex Street started in 2008, and it was so great that Daphne had mentioned to me she was working with Giorgio. He was the first cheese she started to import under the Essex Street label. And I was so excited because I had already been to Giorgio's facility in Bra during the Slow Food event in 2001. And, his father taught me a great deal about Parmigiano. And, so I wanted to carry this cheese being the best of the best. And it occurred to me at that time, everybody was selling Parmigiano Reggiano and trying to sell it for as cheap as they could. $12.99, $14.99. And we said, you know what? Parmigiano is not a commodity. This is a table cheese, a very unique cheese, something that needs to be cherished. And this cheese delivers all the way through the layers of flavor, almost tropical fruit, a little pineapple. Sometimes, the spring milk will give us a little more mango kind of finish to it, but it's a great cheese. They take it at a year old from the Reggio Emilia, from the Po River Valley, and they bring it to their facility in Bra and age it for another 2 years, very slowly. So the cheeses don't really sweat and expel all the way, so it becomes one-dimensional. It has layers and layers of flavor, as you can see while you're tasting it. It's one of my favorite table cheeses. My house is never without this cheese, and it just smells so good when you're there. Like, it just smells so good.
I used to drive Mr. Igbella to have lunch with Gerald Cordy, and now that I'm older, I understand he had me drive because I couldn't drink.
Smart.
And and I felt honored because I got to have lunch with two, amazing gentlemen.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous that you had that relationship with both those guys. I happen to have met Mr. Cordy, and he gave me some time. He was a little honoring his older age, but he was a real interesting guy. But my whole life wanted to meet Igbella. He just was an inspiration to me when I started getting involved in ACS, and I never had the opportunity. But I know he's a good man. I did not.
This is his cheese knife he gifted me.
That's fantastic.
And so it lives in my kitchen.
That guy was a real pioneer in this industry.
I feel lucky and blessed that in Sonoma, the small town that you visit,
yeah,
in high school, any high school student can choose to get a mentor. And you don't have to have challenges or problems. It's part of the business, being in agriculture, being viticulture, dairy.
That's
they want to keep the traditions going. So I signed up and I got Igbella.
Oh, you're so lucky.
As a teenager, I hated it because he was giving me his opinions and making me try everything, whether I liked it or not, and have me drive him to have lunch with Derek Cordy. But now that I'm 51, you couldn't make those stories up.
I know. You think back and you realize what you learned and how you took it for granted at the time, maybe, and it's so great.
Well, Igbella would bring 6 to 12 wheels of cheese, depending on the time of year. And there was a trade for Parmesan Reggiano.
That's awesome.
And that Parmesan Reggiano never went to Bella Cheese. It went straight to Ig's house.
Smart guy.
Cash. It was like a drug deal. I put the cheese in the car, put the Bella in our, and swapped it. And that's what it was every couple months.
I love it. It's so great.
So, something I like to ask our guests, and you've already shared some community aspects that you contribute, but I like to ask all of our guests, how do you participate in your local to national community? And you're widely involved in SFA, the Specialty Food Association, American Cheese Society. But in your backyard, what do you feel that rewards you when you contribute or volunteer or share in your community?
Well, I'll tell you this, I think over the years, again, I was fortunate to have been raised in a family with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and everybody who genuinely care about people. So, and the mentality has always been that we are blessed to have the opportunity to be able to help someone, anyone, everyone. And when you can, and if time affords it, if your time affords it, then you should find any way to give back. And so when when I joined the American Cheese Society in the late 90s, like 97, 98, I used to get these pamphlets from the American Cheese Society, these, you know, 4-page fold over newsletters that they would send quarterly. And I did it because I wanted to learn more about cheese. Remember those days? It was so long ago, right? And then it evolved. And I remember going to my first conference in Vermont. It was 2000 and I think 6. And I was hooked. And I started to get involved in the committees and saying, you know what, I can learn from these people. That was my goal. But at the same time, the giving of time to be part of these committees to help create education programs for retailers, because at the time, you know, it was a cheese maker organization, not really a retailer or a distributor organization. It was all cheesemakers. And the influx of retailers started to happen, you know, in that 2007, 8, 9, like right on through up till now. And I think the industry has gotten better and stronger because of that. I think the feedback both ways has gotten great. And along the way, I made all these connections with really great people like yourself, and you know, Thyroid Market, Sam McGann's like a brother to me, right? And you know, Greg O'Neill, and like I can name hundreds, maybe close to 1,000 people that I've met because of ACS that then, you know, pushed me to SFA, Especially Food Association, and seeing the need for our community to get stronger and tighter there. So, you know, in Philadelphia, I think it's our obligation in Philadelphia, in our community, local, to help young people, to foster the arts, to, you know, wherever we can, be a positive influence, because that's how my grandparents always were. And you know, I get no argument from my brother or cousin because they feel the same way, like they're in that mindset also. We're very grateful to be in a position to be able to help fundraise, donate to, bring on people to help teach, train, educate, and then send them on their way to go spread the good word of food, or, you know, just being a good person. So I think it's everybody who has the ability to make a living doing something that they love and have it not feel like work, and you have that, really, like, you have that responsibility to pass it on to others. I believe that.
I believe I second you right there.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah, I know you do.
to think that we work in a community that's, whether it's driving 2 miles down the street and picking up my cheese at Laura Chanel, or picking up
Yeah.
the phone and calling you.
Yeah, listen, it's a blessing. It totally is. And I feel like, you know, like I need to share that blessing with others and let people know that you don't have to be stuck doing something that you don't want to do. It's, in this day and age, you can make a career out of anything if you just apply yourself and want to be great at something. And you know, again, listen, I tell people, like, when they ask me, like, what do you do? I'm a retailer, yeah, but I basically, you know, eat and drink for a living. And I celebrate great food and great people. And that's what I do every day. And so, like, why? It's not difficult to get out of bed when that's my life, my job, and you know, it's just a great time.
Yeah, I say we eat well, we drink well, and
Yeah.
and I can clean a grease trap.
Yeah, listen, that makes 2 of us, right? That's what we do. It's all good.
You know, and that's a true shop owner, because, you know, if something breaks, you debate, do you call the person? Let me see if I can fix it.
That's right.
And I remember my plumber taught me years ago how to clean a grease trap. He's like, I'm going to give you a lot of money. He's like, if you can't fix it, then you call me. And I still had the same plumber.
Yeah, that's great. That's
And
great.
when I moved into this place, he built it out, same rules, same setup. He's built all 3 of my places.
Yeah, listen, teach a man to fish, right?
Yeah. And so I just want to thank you, Emilio, for taking the time. But before we leave, share about your new cookbook and those nice little cheese videos your team is doing, which are really great.
We're having fun. We're having fun. So I'll just tell you how the book came about. I got to tell you, for years, Running Press and some of those guys would come shop at our stores and ask me, oh, you got to write a book about cheese. You got to do this. And, you know, I would tell them for years, I said, listen, I could talk about it all day long, but I'm not all right. Like, that's not something I'm going to do. So this woman moves to Philadelphia from Wisconsin, and she's a regular customer of ours. Now, I don't know that she's a professor of the English language and of writing and teaches it at the university locally, St. Joe's University, but she's a cheesehead, right? She comes from Wisconsin, Tania Darlington. And running press said, hey, uh, why don't you get Tania to write your book? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, we signed a book deal with her. And then they put it in her ear. She came to me, we got together, and I said, listen, I got it. And so we sat down together, me and her and Hunter, my top cheesemonger, who does all the buying now at the Bruno Brothers, been with us over 20 years.
A few years ago.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's smart. He's smart, and he's very eloquently spoken. So we would sit down, once a week and go over, 2, 3 cheeses, taste them, eat them, talk about them, and I talk about, you know, my passion starts to show how I like to use it. What's the best way, and Hunter would tell these little stories about them. And so tonight just took notes, and she would, that's how the book came to be. So it took about a year and a half of this once a week. And, she got it in publication, and there it is. And some of our favorite recipes that we use those cheeses for are in there. And I got to tell you, so this book was printed like 3 years ago. So, like some of the cheeses aren't in production anymore because there's a lot of American-made cheeses, a bunch of European cheeses. But it's a great book, a great primer. There's some information about my family, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, everybody that helped build the Bruno Brothers and make it what it is today. The House of Cheese. I'll just say the House of Cheese is the name that my grandparents gave it in the 60s. The Bruno Brothers delicatessen, the House of Cheese, and that's why the book is called that.
Oh, that's great. See how ahead of the times they were when they named it the House of Cheese.
Yeah, I mean, really. They were so brilliant and so inspiring. Yeah, so good.
Sounds like you have a wonderful family, and I hope one day to meet some more of them.
I'm very fortunate. So, yes.
My daughter, who you saw do the walk by, she's entering the business.
That's fantastic.
She's putting in her time. She did distribution for a few years. She did retail at the pasta shop with Sandy Sonnenfeld.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
And now she's, doing all of our tech and website and helping with the classes. So it's an honor to have her joining the company.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I have my oldest son started in the company, so he grew up in it. But we have a rule that when you graduate, if you want to make this your career, you have to work outside the company for 5 years and then come back. So he came back 2 years ago, and he's been here, and he's working operations, retail, store level, working his way up to become store manager and so on and so forth. But he'll get through all of the different areas of our business. He's doing well, so I'm grateful.
Similar rule, it worked out.
Yeah. Listen, my youngest son just graduated last year, so he's out working and doing his thing before he figures out what he wants to do for us. So.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your one son joining, and who knows where the future lies. So thank you for taking the time today, sharing your knowledge and expertise about cheese and community and to Bruno Brothers. I'll be glad to add the American Cheese Society website to our link and the Zeppo scholarship.
Yeah.
So not just adding to Bruno Brothers, but then that way they can see the depth of your company.
Absolutely.
I know we'll enjoy a nice cheese board this evening at home, so thanks to you.
Enjoy it.
We will be in touch again. Let's not be strangers during these COVID times.
Absolutely not. Hey, listen, I miss seeing you in person, but soon enough we'll get together.
We will. You'll be here and I'll make it there.
Excellent. Stay well.
You too. Stay safe and healthy, and give my best to your whole team.
All right, Shauna, you take care.
Thank you, Emilio. Have a great day.
Ciao. You do the same. Ciao, ciao.